So, welcome back. It's been a while. This video has been a long time coming, and it has not been easy for me to make. It's been a little frustrating at times. I've been really wanting to get this done because it's sort of the wrap-up of the entire 2013 growing season, and I'm really looking forward to doing some stuff in 2014, but I needed to get this one out of the way before I could do that. So here it is at long last. This is kind of going through all the different varieties that I grew this last year, taking a look at them, seeing which ones I liked, which ones I didn't. As I go through all these different varieties, keep in mind I am not a tomato connoisseur. I like tomatoes, but as far as all the nuances that have to do with tomatoes, not really my forte. So you know, with that, let's just start rolling through them here. And we'll start with the beefsteak. These were pretty big tomatoes. They were fairly prolific, and when we sliced them open, not too shabby, but really it was just a bit of an average tomato. It was a little bit mealy, the texture, which I wasn't too fond of, but you know, you look at it and that's a fine looking tomato right there. And big ones too. So yeah, not bad. The black Krim. The black Krim really, that was the most flavorful of all the black tomatoes that I grew. The tomato Gypsy, the Paul Robeson, and the black Krim. This one I think was the best. I liked it. But I'm not going to grow any black tomatoes this year in 2014. Just didn't like them enough to put them back in rotation, you might say. The Costuluto, I love the look of this tomato. It is just fantastic looking, but it was really prone to blight, a lot of blight. I'd say half of the tomatoes ended up with blight on it. And the flavor just wasn't that good, and as Deb from work pointed out, you get dirt in the crevices in there, makes them a little harder to clean. I'm not going to grow these either this year. Average flavor as well. The tomato Gypsy, not a bad tomato. It was pretty prolific once it started going. It had a little different taste than most of the other blacks, and again, I can't really put my finger on what was different about it, but just a little different flavor. Yeah, you know, but basically a tomato, which a lot of these are. The Italian Heirloom. This one, pretty prolific, monster tomatoes. These things were just huge. This particular one was 1 pound, 2 ounces. And holy cows, it is a meaty tomato, and has a real good flavor. I am going to grow a few of these this year. And I mean, just look at that. Holy cow, that is a lot of tomato right there. The Marglobe, not a bad tomato. It, you know, when it comes down to it, really, it just had a tomato flavor, pretty good. But I'd say kind of a below average yield. Didn't get quite as many of those as some of the others. But you know, it's a tomato. The Marmonde as well. Really, when it comes down to it, just your average, to me anyway, an average tomato. Had kind of a, again, sort of a light yield. Didn't get a whole bunch of them. You know, for a tomato, it functions really well, and it looks kind of nice too. And all these had really nice looks, and I don't know. The Matina, that's a little bit smaller tomato. I got a bunch of them, but you know, as you can see, they're a little smaller than a lot of them, and kind of just a, well, you know, a good tomato taste, but just a tomato. And really, I guess that's what they're supposed to be, is just tomatoes, but a couple of them kind of stood out a little bit more than others. I'm not going to grow these this year. The Moskvich. Real good yield on these, nice sized tomato. I like the size of that, and very good. This was one of those that it was a little sweet, a little tart, sort of had a little bit of everything. I liked it. It was real good. I'm not going to grow these this year, but definitely going to put them on my list to grow again in the future. The Mountain Princess, that's the one that fooled me. It was a determinate, and I didn't realize that at first, but found out later. Average yield, I guess. Pretty flavorful. Nice looking tomatoes. I probably wouldn't be adverse to growing them again, but I'm more a fan of the indeterminate tomatoes myself, varieties, just because they're more fun. The Paul Robeson, man, some really big tomatoes in the Paul Robeson plants. Really had high hopes for them. They were just, to me, it was just an average tomato, though. The black Krim of the blacks, like I said before, I think outshined the Paul Robeson. I mean, good meaty tomatoes, but, you know, and like I say, I'm not even going to grow any blacks this year. Just doesn't really appeal to me. The Plum Lemon. Man, did I get a lot of those little tomatoes. Just a ton of them. Yeah, if you want a lot of little tomatoes, the Plum Lemon is your deal. It's just an average tomato, though. I mean, it would be probably great for a salad. A couple of different colors of the little tomato like that, little cherry tomato, liven things up a little bit. But you know, and the Stupice. This average yield on these guys, but a really, really good flavorful tomato. I really enjoyed the flavor of that. That was one of the first, besides the Paul Robeson, the first one to give me a sample of what it was going to be like. And very, very good stuff. The Thessaloniki, that was pretty darn good. But really, when it comes down to it, just a tomato. I thought, you know, the name sounded kind of cool. It was had a little star next to it in the Annie's Heirlooms catalog. It was one of her favorites. But for me, just a tomato. You know, average old tomato. Nice size, average yield. And the Valencia. This was one of my favorites. Definitely right up there. Good yields, really nice sized tomato. Look at that tomato. That's nice and meaty. Not a whole lot of seeds and juice in there. Really, that is one of the best tomatoes I have. I think it is a toss-up really between the Stupice and the Valencia as to which ones were my favorites, but yeah, definitely right up there. So with that, wrapping it up right there. Thanks for hanging out in 2013. Learned a lot of stuff as far as outdoor hydroponics, and I learned a lot of things that I need to work on for this coming year. I'll talk about that more in a couple of weeks. I got a couple of things already grown in the grow tent inside. I'm going to do some cloning and stuff, but we'll talk about that later. Thanks a lot, and well, see ya. You can come out and grab some tomatoes for a salad or for just to eat, that sort of thing. I'm out of breath for some reason. All this talking and moving about like you've seen. Not really. Sometimes I just ramble on for no apparent reason. Let's see, is there anything else?